Good evening, voters. You may not have heard much about this today, but the fact of the matter is that the Law Commission of India has come out with a new set of recommendations, a report that they want the government and our parliamentarians to look at. What does this report essentially do? In the absence of consensus on Uniform Civil Code, the Law Commission says that it's not going to give up, that they still want our government, our parliamentarians to bring about a change, to bring about reforms in the personal laws. Now, just to make it very simple, I am straight away going to quote some excerpts from this report itself, and you will understand what the rationale is here. The debate tonight is about gender equality and why it needs to be done now, right away, before anything else that the government looks at. The Commission says that it has endeavored to best protect and preserve diversity and plurality that constitute the cultural and social fabric of the nation. So effectively they are saying they want to maintain the plurality that exists in our Indian society. This is not about Uniform Civil Code taking away the rights from different cultures and religion. Various aspects of prevailing personal laws disprivilege women. Yes, that's the essence of this draft report. Why they have written this? The Commission says it is of the view that it is discrimination and not difference that lies at the root of inequality. Their recommendation is that we must, as a nation, first consider bringing and guaranteeing equality within the communities between men and women, within each community, before we actually even start talking about any kind of Uniform Civil Code, any kind of universal law or equality between the different communities. Then they further go on and add to their argument that there are a number of social evils. There were some of them still exist. Sati, slavery, devdasi, dowry, instant talaq, child marriage. These social evils have taken refuge as religious customs in our culture, in our law. And for them to seek protection under law as religion would be a grave folly, says the Law Commission of India. So tonight, viewers, there is only one intention. Let's get everybody together to start a conversation on bringing about more gender equality in our personal laws, in our family laws, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to divorce, when it comes to maintenance, inheritance. All of these aspects of our lives which are often ruled by religious personal laws. That's the big debate.
The intention has been to harmonize the various disparate aspects that exist in various personal laws which are prevalent in the country as we speak, and also the acknowledgement from the Law Commission, which again, to reiterate for our viewers, is it's a body which is playing an advisory role. Its recommendations do not have the binding effect of law as yet. So at the outset, the Law Commission is acknowledging the fact that the Uniform Civil Code at this juncture is neither necessary nor desirable, and in the absence of any consensus on the Uniform Civil Code, the Commission felt that the best way forward may be to preserve the diversity of personal laws, but at the same time ensure the personal laws do not contradict fundamental rights as guaranteed under the Constitution of India. The Law Commission itself is saying that UCC at this juncture is not desirable. Then the other important aspect is something which they have highlighted as to how the universal age of majority, that is 18, should be good enough for both male and female, and the stereotype that a man has to be older to his wife should be done away with. This again is a very progressive point of view or recommendation which the Law Commission is shared. And then the restitution of conjugal rights as exists in the present form of the Hindu Marriage Act, that is also what the Commission is seeking to do away with entirely. It is going on to state, and I am quoting from portions of the report here, that the status of women, Ministry of Women Child Development in 2015 had also recommended that restitution of conjugal rights has had no relevance in independent India, and the existing matrimonial laws already protects conjugal relations, as denial of consummation is recognized as a ground for divorce.
Let's say good evening to our guest, Geeta Luthra, lawyer with the Supreme Court, joining us this evening. Amber Zaidi, social activist. Dr. Rami Yagnik, MP with the Rajya Sabha and of the Congress Party. Mr. Mehmood Paracha, lawyer and member of the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, will be with us shortly. And Aditya Shankar of the BJP will also be joining us shortly. But let me go across to the legal expert first. Geeta Luthra, good evening. Do you think this makes sense that at a time when we don't really have a consensus and the whole uniform civil code looks like a bigger task, that we first bring about a change in individual personal laws?
So basically, I think it's the same way of addressing the issue, which is bringing about some amendments in personal laws which the Law Commission feels are needed. Some may be in aspects of Hindu law which are missing, some may be in aspects of Muslim law, part of it is Parsi law and the married women's right to inherit property. So various aspects bringing about, you may do it by various enactments, the way the Hindu law, in fact from 1955 to 1956, brought in 4 codification of personal laws by making amendments in the personal law and codifying the law. I don't think that's what's important. What's important is that for all communities, some aspect of gender equality should come, or gender rights should come, so that women who may be falling short of rights of inheritance, for example, if you take Hindu personal law or Muslim personal law or Parsi personal law, then you address that aspect of the personal law which is denying them that right to equality. Now we can do it piecemeal per legislation rather than a drastic uniform civil code which actually fails to take into account the fact that there are religious differences. Each religion has its own ethos and you want to preserve it as far as possible, while you want to ensure that there is an element of gender equality. So I think it would be a step in the right direction. Now, regarding the amendments proposed, I mean, I would have, there are many aspects to it, and I would have different thoughts on each of the amendments.
Okay.
For example, if you'd like me to dilate further.
Yes, please. I wanted to ask you, which of these would you think is would be problematic? Yes.
Yes. So what I think is problematic, or what I think needs further examination, is, for example, irretrievable breakdown of marriage. Now, one of the grounds that we use in India, if a NRI person has been married in India and then faces a divorce in circumstances where the person was not able to defend or had to rush back to India or didn't have the economic means, one of the grounds we use, in fact, is that there is no irretrievable breakdown of marriage in India. And thus, we get the Indian laws to redress.
Go ahead, please, sir. Apologies for that.
Yeah. So we use that to redress that person's grievance. So of course, I also empathize with all those who are looking forward to irretrievable breakdown rather than hanging in the courts for 10 or 20 years, which is what a divorce takes from the trial court, that is the family court, to the high court. No one should be denied a right to life in this manner. But I think there has to be a balance of how you bring in irretrievable breakdown of marriage.
Fair enough.
At one time it was suggested that women should have it and men shouldn't have it. Now that's also so unfair. So you can't have that. Therefore, you have irretrievable breakdown of marriage, but hedge it in such a way that those non-resident Indians or those spouses who don't have a good maintenance, don't get a good settlement, shouldn't be left high and dry.
Okay, so I take your point on that one, Geeta
That
Luthra.
has always been the anomaly.
Yes, I take your point on that one.
Yes.
But some of the other things, and this is for our viewers also to understand that the Law Commission really explores is, for example, the marriageable age, or consent that you need to get married is 18 for girls, 21 for boys in general, but under Muslim law, Muslim personal law, you can get married even at a younger age. And so there are differences within communities and there are differences within the gender. Now, the Law Commission is saying, first, bring in a universal level, maybe 18. So everybody should have the right, with consent, as adults, to marry who they choose to at the age of 18. That's one of the examples of gender equality that Law Commission is looking at. The other one, for example, is grounds for divorce, and especially under the Muslim personal law, men don't need to give grounds for divorce, women do. We are given to understand, that's what the Law Commission also says, and that shouldn't be there. Whatever is the law, monogamy, bigamy, polygamy, grounds for divorce must be same for men and women. Ambar Zaidi, do you agree on that aspect that it's been far too long and we cannot wait anymore to bring about this gender equality, this neutrality in our laws?
Yes,
Absolutely,
first,
absolutely.
India is a democratic country,
it's
yes.
Yes, my question was for
in
Ambar
in
Zaidi.
a democratic
Yes.
country like India, there should not be any
Sorry.
place for personal law. And if we talk, hello, yeah.
Go ahead, please.
And if we talk about personal law, especially Muslim personal law, we have different thought of schools in Muslim. There are Wahhabis, there are Barelvis and Shias and so many others. So we need to have a codified Sharia law so that it becomes easier for people to understand that what is the what actually Islam and what is the Sharia says about particular thing, especially Muslim personal law. When we talk about triple talaq, some say it is Islamic, some say it's un-Islamic. So we need to have a codified Sharia law, and when we talk about the age of consent in marriage, that it should be equal, because everybody is equal before law. So we need to have equal laws for everybody, irrespective of religion, caste, creed and gender.
Okay, I completely agree with you, and I think, and let me take that point across to Dr. Ami Yagnik. Dr. Ami Yagnik, do you believe that these inequalities that exist in our personal laws is because for far too long we've given them that protection under the religion or under our religious customs, and no government, no party has ever, at least in the last couple of decades, found the courage to take these steps or to take up these issues and speak about them?
You're right. Gender equality has been a topic very close to many hearts of many people, and we have been hearing for several years now that we need to bring reforms in the personal laws, because as one of the panelists said, that we have laws for the Sikh community and for the Christians and for the Parsis and for the Hindus and the Muslims, and in every law there are some kind of these personal laws completely dominating, and where the gender inequality completely creeps in such a bad way that in the end we fail to get the justice which we would like to get the woman to get as far as the remedy of law is concerned. So here when the Law Commission says that yes, there we need gender equality on the age aspect, on certain other aspects, but they are different in different personal laws, and hence we need the reforms in the personal laws. Whether it is the Hindu law, there's so many discrepancies which creep in and that give inequality to women. At the end of 10 years of fighting a battle, she practically ends up with a paper degree, but she does not get the real justice and the dignity she deserves to get. So I think there should be some uniformity in that. But then who will bring the reforms in the personal laws? Who would be the people who would discuss and do brainstorming and sit and decide on this gender equality? which has been suggested by the Law Commission. I think there should be some kind of a proactivism by all stakeholders, and we definitely need this. And so, yes, it is definitely welcome.
You say, but that should
from
be
the
the
Law Commission.
You say
but
who
they
will
are not
decide?
binding. So how do we take it in a very positive way?
All stakeholders, which are men and women of this country, each and every voter, and they have obviously shared their view by electing a group of people and sending them to the parliament, and that the parliament has to take this conversation forward. We need more representation of women in the parliament on these groups that make these decisions. My question to you is, when will we start doing that?
No, I think you asked whom?
Yes, to you only, Ami Agni.
Yes, I think it is time, and we should take it up as parliamentarians also. But I would say that first of all, before the women all start fighting for their rights, because we need to send a helping hand, we need to bring the reservation bill, let there be equality at one stage, and then we see that it spills over to the other sections, and women will definitely be empowered in that sense. We need to take it at the parliament level, we need to take it at the legislature level, and we also need to take it in the private sector, and then this implementation of equality to whatever percentage, we may take it to 33% or 50%, that will give some power to women, and that will definitely be a shift towards bringing these reforms in the personal laws.
Okay, so let me bring in Mr. Aditya Shankar of the BJP. Mr. Shankar, then the onus is on your party and your government to start this process. We don't have to wait for the Supreme Court to come and strike down instant talaq for the government to come out with regulations. Now that the Law Commission has made these recommendations, what's the timeline?
I think, firstly, Tanvi, the issues that have been flagged by the Law Commission require some deliberation, and I think these are issues which is required to be deliberated upon by the government of the day. However, the question is that these issues cannot be decided on a piecemeal basis. There has to be a rationale behind it, and these things can only happen when there is a coordination of all the political parties when it comes to building consensus on bringing important changes as far as trying to reform personal law is concerned. As you know recently that even when issues regarding Sharia and other courts have been debated of late, there are various oppositions, and even due to political reasons, even due to some other religious reasons, people are unable to concede the ground to the courts of jurisdiction. Now the most important issue that is likely to be flagged here is that even, for example, if the government tries to bring a legislation that gives some kind of a sanctity or some kind of a force to the recommendations made by the Law Commission, will the clergy or will the certain vested sections of society accept these recommendations within the application of that particular society itself? That is the question. And now the other part is, which I think is the most important part, which must be discussed, is that on one hand you have the Supreme Court that is deliberating upon the Ram Janambhoomi case as well as the Babi Masjid case. But when it comes to deciding issues of personal law, there is a lot of conflict on that. And if you are willing to accept the judgment of the apex court on issues pertaining to religious faith and your own personal identity as a Hindu or a Muslim, but you cannot give the court, but you are not willing to give to the court the right to have jurisdiction to decide matters of personal law.
So
I think that dichotomy
courts
needs to be
have often said that these matters should be decided by the parliament, by those who've been elected by the people. The Law Commission report, by the way, says exactly the opposite of what you're saying. They are saying bring about these reforms on a piecemeal basis, because for each of these reforms you will have to bring about changes in different personal law acts, or you will have to codify each of them. And that is going to be on a piecemeal basis. They are not saying that in one go you can do all of this under one set of code which will be for everybody. So that's exactly the point that is being made here. But to your point about what if there is some opposition from individual organizations or stakeholders, Mahmood Paracha is with us. Good evening, Mr. Paracha. Now, the conversation we are having is there have been a set of recommendations that have been made by the Law Commission.
And the rest of the panelists.
Yes, and the essence of these recommendations is to bring about gender equality, to do away with any kind of inequality, to do away with any kind of discrimination in individual laws. And they say, let's first bring about some equality within the community and then talk about uniformity in all the communities. What is your response to that? Should we bring in laws that puts women and men on the same platform when they seek divorce, that the grounds are the same? Should we do away with laws that give advantage or that give special rights to men, for example, polygamy? What's your view?
Tanvi, I think this Law Commission's report has actually clinched the issue and clarified the legal position as per the constitutional requirements also. And this is a very welcome step. Everybody should welcome it. Law Commission has clearly said that unified civil code is not the solution. So they have clearly rejected the unified civil code aspect, common civil code aspect. They have clearly in clear terms rejected that. And instead they have recognized that in our society, every section of the society, every religion is discriminatory towards the women. So they have hit the nail on its head by saying that it is the women's right which need to be protected, and that can be in a better way done by improvements in individual systems also. And that way we are not going to be falling foul to the basic spirit of our constitution, which gives every community, every religion to have a way of life of their own, but without the basic fundamental principle of equality for every class, including and more specifically the women. Now, lot of politics is being played on common civil code without the intention of the government or any other political party. So the basic mischief is this, like for example the triple talaq bill also. Everybody will welcome this, but the government, despite having majority in the Rajya Sabha, is not implementing it. I think Muslim women will be the torchbearers. If this kind of provision comes, it will help the other communities also, because the real question is that the financial security of the women has to be ensured whenever a husband or the male just pushes her out of the house. That is the basic problem. Call it triple talaq or call it by any other name. So the basic problem is that has to be solved by way of a penal provision, which will not only have some penal provision for the husband for doing such kind of atrocious thing, but also will ensure that some part of his the family assets, rather 50% of the family assets, have to be immediately shifted in the name of the wife. That will be the real solution. And I think if triple talaq bill is passed without politics,
Aditya Shankar
and
right
government
now
can
is
do it
telling
because they
us,
have majority
Mr.
in Rajya Sabha,
Paracha,
because the deputy chairperson.
Aditya Shankar of the BJP is telling us right now,
Deputy
Mr.
chairperson
Paracha,
of the Rajya Sabha was
that
elected by
there
this
will be, if we bring in
Yes.
this, then we will see, they anticipate that there may be some kind of opposition from, the clerics, the clergy community and the clergies of any religion, or what about the All India Muslim Personal Law
care
Board?
about clergy? See, I am a member of
India is a democratic country and which runs by constitution. Why are they afraid of any clergy
but
or
I
any?
will stand. I will along with large number of Muslim intellectuals and clergies will stand by for this bill. But there is an intention lack of intention. I am saying it on air, and I have been saying it that we will oppose the mullahs. Do it. You have the majority in Rajya Sabha. What is stopping you?
Okay,
Why do you
so
care about people or mullahs or anyone who are against women, who are against Article 14? Why should you care? So there is a lack of intention. That is what we are saying. They should do it. We plead with them, make it more strong and do it. Have some provision for shifting of or transfer of the family assets in the name of the wife immediately. That provision should be included, and this should be implemented regardless of the opinion of mullahs. There is no need for them.
Okay,
in this aspect, it is not also anti-Islamic, because Islam permits that triple talaq is a penal offence as per Islam also. I think government is delaying and not giving the women their right.
Okay, Aditya Shankar, hold on to your response, because I think Amber Zaidi would also like to add to this point, and then you can respond to both of them. Yes, Amber, go ahead, please.
The Aditya Shankar ji said that they're afraid of mullah's opinion. So there's no need to. India runs by constitution. Why are you afraid of mullah's opinion? If you're talking about All India Muslim Personal Law Board's opinion, so India Muslim Personal Law Board is just an NGO. So why are you afraid of it? If you have a will to change, bring about these change in favor of Muslim women, you should just do it. Why are you afraid of any clergy, be it any Hindu clergy or any Muslim? You should bring about these change in favor of Muslim any women empowerment, irrespective of religion and caste and creed. Why you and Amiji was saying that we need to have this women protection bill, and she didn't even mention the triple talaq bill. So every party is communalize and polarize both the issues of both any issues of any women. So why are you polarizing the issue of women irrespective of any religion?
Yes, Mr.
Why are you just doing it? You just require the political will to bring about these changes, be it a protection bill of women or triple talaq bill.
Yes, Mr. Aditya Shankar, you want to respond to that?
Right. Now, please give me 2 minutes. I'll properly respond to it. First of all, I completely agree with Amal, and I think what she has said is a very valid point. And I also respect Mr. Pracha's what Mr. Pracha has said. But let me start with a caveat. Now, in this country, when the Supreme Court, as I said earlier, is deciding the issue of faith, can the Supreme Court not decide the issue of religion, personal freedom? Can the Supreme Court not decide the issue of personal laws? Now the question is, please allow me to complete. See, now the question is, on one hand, you have a constitution that creates courts. On other hand, you have the Sharia courts that wants to override the constitution when it comes to deciding personal laws, when it comes to deciding...
We are asking you, what's stopping you, Aditya Shankar?
I'm sorry.
I know you're going...
In a democratic country, there should not be any place for any parallel judicial system.
Yes.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
So we are asking you what you, as the ruling party, as the party in government, will do.
System in
The issue
India.
is... No, just allow me to complete, please. Give me a second, please. The issue is, when Supreme Court and the courts of India, including the High Courts of India, can decide on issues of faith, why can't they take a stand on issues of personal law?
It is not the. I'm sorry. The triple talaq and personal law is not the issue of faith. It is the matter of
to build a consensus among all the parties.
Family law has nothing to do with faith or any religion.
Unless and until vested interests do not hamper the bill. Now the Congress party, with all due respect, they have some reservations
everybody
when it comes
knew.
to triple talaq. Why the husband of a woman who is giving triple talaq to a woman, should he not be penalized? Why does a woman should be treated shabbily? Now there are many issues involving that. The clergy has a problem with that. I'm sure
And
with
why
respect
aren't
to
you
the All
bringing
India
the change?
Muslim Law Board, they are very
Why weren't you
progressive in their
ready? Why
thought.
weren't you ready
But
with
think
some
about the
other
people,
plan?
Think about those
Mr.
persons who
Aditya
are slightly
Shankar.
retrograde in their thinking. That is the point. And
So, Aditya Shankar, I don't think this is not a platform to go back to the conversations.
sorry,
We've
Uncle,
already
you are
had
trying to
Aditya
polarize
Shankar.
the
We've
issue.
moved
No,
on.
no,
Yes,
this is
you
not
are
the-
trying.
this is not the
Yes,
issue of
you're
debate.
trying to polarize the issue right now, which is not the point of the conversation tonight. The point of the conversation tonight is not about one specific community. Aditya Shankar, the point of the conversation tonight is gender equality, equality in rights between men and women, between men and women. Who can do that? Who will do that? Who will do that? Who will legislate the new laws? Who is empowered to do that? Is the clergy doing that, or is the government doing that? Is the clergy doing that, or is the government doing that?
There cannot be a timeline.
Who is going to bring about the legislation?
Building these things up,
I'm sorry, you weren't ready with some other plan. Everybody knew what is the view of Congress. Why aren't you ready with some other plan?
I think the government will try to bring an all-party
Both the
meeting and
parties
decide
is polarizing the
amicably.
women issues.
Let the government take a call on that. There cannot be a timeline, but yes, it should be
I'm
done.
sorry,
as
Okay,
soon as
Mr. Aditya
possible.
I'm going to go, I don't want to get
You
into
are
this
trying to
debate.
completely
I'm going to
polarize
go
it.
back to the other aspect and let me go back to Geeta Luthra on that. Geeta Luthra, a lot of the recommendations that are here which talk about bringing in these reforms is what one would have expected via the Uniform Civil Code. A codified set of laws that's for everybody, which are largely about the laws about marriage, which are largely about laws for divorce, which are largely about inheritance and maintenance. Then why is it that the two are now being differentiated?
So I'll tell you, say a Hindu marriage in principle is supposed to be sacred, it's supposed to be non-contractual. A Muslim marriage is supposed to be contractual, and that is how traditionally these communities have treated marriage. Now, while you want to maintain equality, you also are not opposed to diversity, and I somehow, it's my opinion that although I think it was in Sadla Mudgil several years ago in the 80s, Supreme Court suggested for the first time that the Parliament should think about codifying a uniform civil code. My personal view is that at this point, if we redress the grievance, for example, with regard to inheritance or right to property, which is one of the most fundamental rights and will also bring in their economic equality, then if we redress this in each community, which is different, the problem and the where the solution is different for each community. So if it is different for each community, my view would be that a piecemeal redressal, as the Law Commission has suggested, for example, in Hindus, you have a Hindu joint family. You have only male members who can be members of a co-parsonary. So, one of the things the Law Commission has suggested, let's get rid of the co-parsonary. So, it is redressing those nuances and those differences that remain in each community or each religious denomination and which take steps towards equality. My personal view is that that's a better way of redressing it than, for example, something like maintenance and alimony. You could have a uniform legislation, and the Domestic Violence Act, the Criminal Procedure Code with the 125 CRPC are uniform laws irrespective of community.
Okay.
So there are laws in place. Now the question is that that's a law where you may not even want to have different nuances in communities. But inheritance by its nature, each community each religious denomination may have differences. For example, Parsi community, only if you marry outside the community, then the women don't get a right, get certain rights, which has been challenged and which is pending in Supreme Court. So basically, you need to redress only that small aspect where there is inequality or there is a gender discrimination.
Yes, in fact, that's a very interesting point that you raised.
If one can do it while maintaining diversity.
Yes. Yes, and that's a very interesting point that you raised. And there are such examples under every, personal law, whether it's the Hindu law, whether it's the Muslim law or the Parsi law. For example, what Geeta Luthra just mentioned, viewers, is the fact that under the Parsi law, family law, if a woman marries outside the community, then she loses all her religious rights. And that has been challenged right now in the court. She can't even attend the religious funeral of her own parents That's how strict it is, and that is horribly discriminatory. And those are the kind of discriminatory laws which are there in every religion, some or the other, which need to change. For years and years now, political parties have not allowed that to happen because, well, it's an easy tool to use to try and polarize people and to play vote bank politics. So perhaps what Law Commission is giving us tonight is a better option, is a better alternative to bring about that change. Mahmood Paracha wanted to come in. Go ahead, please.
See, as I said in the beginning, in my opening remarks also, our system is discriminatory towards women. It's a given. All political parties have a bias against women. It's a given. All religions, as they are practiced today, have a bias against women. It's a given. So we have to, this Law Commission report is has clinched the issue very correctly. So therefore, let us all put our forces, and I am glad Gita Luthra Saiba is also agreeing with us, that we should not try to make it uniform. Every religion should be allowed to practice its own method, but there cannot be any discrimination in certain basic things, and that is that the women have to be treated nicely in their own way, in their own manner. That is a given, and there are various laws which are uniform as it is today also, like Domestic Violence Act, like 125, and for Muslims I would say that Muslim Women Protection on Divorce 1986 Act is even stronger than 125. But we welcome anything which protects women in a more stronger way. So BJP government today should not create just a situation where they can criticize the mullahs and garner political benefit out of it. They have the majority in Rajya Sabha. They should have it passed. The bill should be implemented immediately, and we will tackle the mullahs. I am saying it officially. We will tackle the mullahs. Why are you afraid of mullahs? Why do you criticize Congress of being afraid of mullahs when you are yourself afraid of mullahs? You should not be afraid of mullahs if you are truly, really wanting to empower Muslim women.
Okay, well, actually on that note, I think we've made a very good beginning today. What Law Commission has given us is a great platform or a starting point for a conversation to bring in these reforms in personal laws, to bring in gender equality, make laws which are gender neutral. Whether it is adultery, whether it's the age of getting married, whether it's the grounds for divorce, whether your right for inheritance from your family, whether it's the custody of your children, the laws should be same for men and women. For example, single male father cannot adopt a female child. Now this is something that we will talk about, and whether that should be done away with also. If as a parent somebody wants to adopt a child, the laws should be the same. I'm going to thank my panelists at this point, but I think viewers, this conversation tonight was to also spark off that debate within your own families, within your own circles. Because only when we as a society start talking about this, start pointing out the discriminatory rules that are within our own religion and communities, can we then expect the government and our politicians to take it seriously and to bring about that change? It's 2018. The beginning was made with doing away with the instant triple talaq and then bringing in a legislation for that. There's a long, long way to go, and so many more discriminatory rules that have to be done away with. Thank you so much for joining us on this debate.